Hi there, welcome to Prime Sports with me, Razak Wasbout. Now tonight, well, the sports segment is brought to you by Latina Travel and Tours, the 2025 Football Festival partner, of course. Latina Travels is taking Team Ghana to the biggest football event on the planet, which of course will be happening in the USA, Canada and Mexico. And Latina Travel has got wonderful packages, including visa to watch all 3 group stage matches, 3 official match ticket, return charter flight, top-class hotel accommodation and travel insurance, and of course, exclusive access to business networking events at the all-host nations. So all you need to do is to call them 0244-260-789, or you can visit them at Latina at Alisa Hotel at North Ridge and secure your spot on this once-in-a-lifetime journey. And still on the World Cup, well, Minister of Sports and Recreation, Kofi Adams, has assured that the budget for the Black Stars' participation in the 2026 FIFA World Cup will be made public. The minister, who previously disclosed the cost of each World Cup qualifier match, despite criticism from some football stakeholders, confirmed in an interview on Peace FM that that same level of transparency will apply to the nations team's World Cup preparation. And we've got excerpts of that statement for you here. Very profound that, on quote, we will make the World Cup budget public, noting nothing will be hidden. And the government, in fact, does not intend to profit. This is about giving Ghana what it deserves. And of course, this will probably be the first time that we'll be seeing, before the Black Stars participate in the World Cup, how much money will be spent. Government has assured that they will disclose that. Now, one other area the government is looking to also make funds available for is the transport of Ghanaian fans to the World Cup. Well, this is what he had to say about that. And he said that the funds we will raise will determine the number of fans we take to the World Cup. So government is looking to raise some funds to transport some Ghanaians to rally the Black Stars at the World Cup. Well, however, remains unclear whether government will make any budgetary allocation for the transport of these fans, or it is going to be entirely private funds. Well, the minister did give an insight as to what government intends to do when he spoke in 2025 of November. And this is what he had to say about that very situation. He said that, unquote, I do not think it's something I will recommend. We are currently in a difficult economic situation. We even need funds to build sports infrastructure in Ghana, yet we'd be spending money to transport supporters all the way to America. So he fundamentally is saying that he will not support any move by government to fund the transport of fans to the World Cup. However, he will be open to exploring other alternatives. And he says, if you want to go, find your own resources. We can facilitate your travel document and you can go. Alternatively, you could seek support from corporate organizations, both private and public. And he ends by saying that, well, it is something government will look into, hopefully, to get some funds from private entities so that they can carry some of the Ghanaian funds to support the Black Stars. But will government dip their hands into the state coffers to fund the transport of funds? Well, that's something that we're still waiting to get clarity on. Or government, the minister, will stick by his words that he will not support any move to fund the transport of these football supporters by government. Now, let's turn attention to the Ghana Premier League, because efforts to secure justice for slain football supporter Nana Pole have made little progress, with stakeholders raising concern about the slow pace of the judicial process 1 year after his death. It's exactly 1 year since Nana Pole was stabbed to death in Swansea during a Ghana Premier League clash between his countryman and their opponent. Now, this incident raised concerns about football hooliganism in the Ghana Premier League. Well, as the case continues to linger in the court, Kumasi Asante Kotoko has raised concern. Even the family has done the same. Now, Samuel Bartels is a private legal practitioner and also a football pundit, and he joins us via Zoom to appreciate what will account for this delay in the legal process. Samuel, thank you very much for making time with us tonight. First of all, help us understand why this delay is occurring in the first place.
Well, I mean, there are details, obviously, that are not in the public domain and that we are not privy to. But let me say first, good evening to you. Good evening to anybody who is watching us today. Let me start by saying that typically we would be expecting too much if we expected that a criminal process such as the polio one would have been finished within a year. Such is the process generally, and not just because it's a football matter, that these things take time. But be that as it may, I think there are some specific circumstances surrounding this case which may have triggered Kumasi Asante Kotoko's statement today. My disappointment is that I would have expected a much larger reaction from the football community to this, since this was a huge event and this fundamentally challenged the safety of supporters at our football stadiums. I haven't seen a statement yet from the FA. I would have expected that on a day such as this, they would have issued a statement reassuring supporters of their safety anytime they go to the football stadiums or anytime they traveled with their clubs to watch away matches. Nothing of the sort has happened. Now, back to Kumasi Asante Kotoko's concern about the process. Now, my understanding really is that the case is yet to properly take off, because for 8 months out of the 12 months since this incident occurred, the police have really been, apparently, this is according to well-informed sources, been waiting for some forensic examination to be completed, based on which they can put their case together. They are even yet to go to the AG to receive the advice exactly as to how to proceed with this case, and within which period, obviously, you can't hold the suspect. So you would remember that in the weeks after, in the aftermath, the Sunyani District Court did grant some of the suspects, well, indeed all of them, bail. And since then, based on different conditions, most of them have been on bail. But the other key thing you have to realize is that the alleged key suspect in this matter is still on the run. And so the police do not have him. So quite clearly, beyond the procedural delays, there is very clearly a lack of commitment to proceed with this case. Because whilst I do not expect that this should have been completed within a year, it is certainly not where people would have expected it to be. And it clearly shows that there's a difference between the immediate outpouring of grief and of outrage and the call for action that came from the highest level, right, from the sports minister to the GFA to football fans and various other stakeholders in football within the country. There's a difference between that and commitment and action and bringing the full weight of whichever authority is involved to ensure that justice is expedited.
I mean, if it, just based on this incident and how it's unfolding, do you think it in any way will undermine the efforts to try and nip, hooliganism in our game?
No, it certainly will. This is one of those instances where the man whose picture you have on your screen, I mean, although the circumstances are sad, should become a poster boy for a sustained campaign to ensure safety in the stadium. The FA has done something, but I think they haven't done enough. Quite clearly, in the aftermath, they announced a new security approach. There was the appointment of the regional security coordinators to work with the police ahead of matches. There was the appointment of the club security coordinators. But also in the months afterwards, there were several cases that took place in the stadium. And I think the FA should have demonstrated more commitment to pursuing this case and keeping it on the front burner and keeping it on the national consciousness beyond just the justice process. I think Kotoko's gripe is primarily based on the fact that they feel the case is abandoned, and the people who are in the position to probably push and apply some pressure to have the police accelerate this evidence collection, this forensic evidence that's taken 8 months, for instance, or the follow-ups and the other processes don't seem to have done that. And for somebody who's died and left a widow and heartbroken club, they will feel that more could have been done. And the signals that is sent are very confusing signals and a downright discouragement to people who would want to go to our various stadiums. And indeed, to our own effort to encourage people to go to various venues. We are struggling to get very safe venues, despite the minimal action that has been taken. You don't want the whole case to become the reference point for parents who tell their children, do not go to the stadium because remember, Ole died and there was no justice and nobody was ever found culpable of his death. I won't go into the details as to what charges they want to bring against it and essentially what is happening. But it's quite obvious that this case has not progressed as much as it should. And my call to the entire football fraternity, it's time to start making some noise. Understand the FA has not even bothered to be checking with the police or with the Kumasi Asante Kotoko fraternity themselves to find out how things are going. So that is why perhaps the club will feel that they've been left to their own devices. And that's why perhaps they'll have very little confidence in the ability of the system to deliver justice for Pole. And as I said, this becomes a signal to everybody else who is interested in football and who is interested in going to the stadiums to watch football. So the story we tell in a year's time should not be the same as the story we are telling today, a year after the young man lost his life under very unfortunate circumstances. And if I can just quote something that Lydia Donko said when she said, and I quote, and you remember she used to be chairperson of the GFA Security and Safety Commission. She said at the time, and I quote, if we do not start prosecuting offenders and banning them from stadiums, we will not make progress. This tragic incident is a wake-up call, and we are going to take action. Well, that action has not really taken place and has not transformed the landscape as much as we want. And that prosecution has not even reached an advanced stage for you to say that this case is any closer to delivering justice for the victim.
Well, we really appreciate your time tonight, and hopefully this conversation will continue so that we can get... The second edition of the University of Ghana Corporate Football League has officially been launched, and at the University of Ghana Stadium. Well, my colleague Benaya Kwame, the famous poet, was there and has more in this report.
The press launch brought together participating corporate institutions, specially invited guests and members of the media to unveil plans for the 2026 season, which is scheduled to run from February to June. The event marked the formal commencement of activities for another highly anticipated edition of the University of Ghana Corporate Football League. Board chairman of the National Sports Authority, Dr. Fred Awa, expressed confidence that the competition will grow even bigger in the coming years and called for more corporate bodies to get involved.
I think that years to come, they should take a much bigger dimension. Well, reality is that there hasn't been anything that has been successful in this era without collaborations. Now, you may have your strengths, but the strengths of another would complement yours to be more enhanced. So we are calling on corporate Ghana to come together with the University of Ghana and also the National Sports Authority, and by extension the Ministry of Sports and Recreation, to see how we make sports more enhanced and pronounced in this country.
Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Nanaba Apiamfo, also urged companies that missed out on this year's edition to begin early registration for the next season.
Oh, actually, if you are listening to me and you are not part of this edition, I will urge you that you start your registration now. Because if you don't come early, we would have to, it's just going to get so big. And so we have to catch up at some point. So come early, start your registration from next year now, because it's definitely getting bigger and better.
Following a season filled with passion, intensity, and memorable moments in 2025, the 2026 UG Corporate Football League promises a stronger, more competitive, and professionally organized competition. The tournament is set to kick off on February 13 this year, with matches to be played every Friday evening from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the University of Ghana Sports Stadium.
Well, that's all we have for you on Prime Sports tonight. Thank you very much for your company.